Hey Fly Tyers, welcome back to AvidMax Fly Tying Tuesday. My name is Brady and today we are going to tie another John Barr favorite. This is his Tungstone, a juicy little stonefly bug. So, fun one to have. Featured a lot of John Barr patterns on the channel for good reason. The man knows how to design a fly that catch fish. And this Tungstone is no exception to that. So, starting out, we have our hook set in the vise. This is the TMC 2302. I'm doing a size 10 here today. And then I have my Veevus 8/0 thread in brown. We're doing a bit of a darker color, but before I do that, let's put a bead on there, shall we? A nice oversized bead nonetheless. This is a 5/32. This is true to size, just seems a little big on this hook. Nice, big, juicy, Mounds colored firehole tungsten bead there. So we're making kind of a darker stonefly coloration today. Matching it with this brown thread here. Walk it on back, giving a quick thread base. And we will add in our tails first. Leave that hanging. And add in some Goose Biots. So that's the tail for our stonefly here. Go to stonefly tailing material. Good old Goose Biot. So we'll take 2 of them, just like so. Flip them, reverse them, and throw them down. So match up our tips there. Get everything nicely aligned. Find the length of our body. Maybe just shy of the full shank. Tie it in on either side here. And by all means, if you want to do one at a time, that is perfectly fine. But it does save a lot of time if you practice on the front end and work on tying them in together. Cuts that component of the fly in half. So I'm just going to run up the body, cover over all of this. Doesn't have to be pretty. Just want to add a little bit of underbulk, not too much, but a little bit of taper to this stonefly nymph. Having a hard time there we go. And sometimes they don't want to behave. You gotta, get them in line. There we go, that'll work. And then I'm gonna jump right into the backing and ribbing materials. The ribbing for this, I'm just using some Umpqua nylon, Performx nylon. Don't need too much of it, but cut off some. You can do fly after fly. And we'll tie that in quick. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in the next material, which is going to be the flash to the back. This will be the top of the fly. So I'm tying it in first so that when you fold it over, it does end up on top. So we'll secure it down just like so. And then the final material we have is the thin skin. So that's kind of the modeling underneath. This is the Specks style, the brown-black Specks. Lots of different color options available for thin skin. I see this fly a lot tied in yellow variations. It's a great yellow Sally fly in the summer months. This is a nice dark stonefly, black stonefly could go for. And try and get another cleaner sheet there. Let's see here. So I would say a little less than 1/8 of an inch or so. That's what we want our strip of thin skin to be. Like so. And then you want to take the carded backing off of it. Don't want that white stuff on there. We want just our thin skin. And we're going to tie it facing down to start so that when we fold it over, then the correct side will be facing outward. And one thing to keep in mind as you're doing this, when you come up and over, it wants to sort of grab it and fold it down, so you want to make sure that that lays somewhat tight to the shank as you go back. Just helps with uniformity more than anything. And you're also going to get all 3 of those materials that you tied in, the mono, the flash, and the thin skin, and walk back on top of all three, all the way back to where that tail rests. So now we have that all ready and out of the way. I'm just gonna give a quick up and down to it. We got a nice taper going on already, so I don't have to worry about that too much. You can always play around with it with the dubbing. And what I'm gonna use for dubbing today, a couple different dubbings. This will be the Ice Dub Pheasant Tail to start. A nice copper brown underbody. So we'll noodle that up. You can use some dubbing wax to do that. Always helps with ice dub, just gets it to bind a little bit better if you have some sort of wax. So nice tight noodle. Then we can work that on forward, starting in the back and on forward, and again being conscious of that overall taper, and we'll just add as we go. That way we don't get too carried away and get too much on there. You can always add more real easily, sometimes not as easy to remove material. So keep that going forward, all the way up to where we kind of have it positioned, that thread position turning into that bare shank. So a few more wraps, maybe one more section of dubbing here. I do want to leave myself plenty of room up front for the thorax of this fly. There's a bit to what's going to happen up there. So we'll wait about a bead's distance back, maybe give yourself even a little more room than that. And then the first thing we're going to do is pull up that thin skin. Don't pull too tight on this, you can break it free, but you want to pull snug enough so that it lays somewhat flat right on top and sort of hugs and molds around that dubbing. And we'll lay a couple down, and then I'm going to clip this out for now, but save it because we're going to come back to it. And we can do the same thing with the holographic tinsel. I don't know that I mentioned, this is just some Mirage tinsel. And thick size, because we want it to cover the majority of that back of the fly. And then we can trim that out. And if everything's nice and secure, then we can bring over the mono. And same thing here, as you come up and over, make sure you're not pulling that material with you. You still want it to be sort of molded to the body of the fly. And all this mono is doing is adding segmentation. Well, I guess in addition to that though, durability, right? Help keep it all together, fish after fish. So we'll wrap that forward, nice clean segmentation. Back over the top of everything here. And then we're gonna add in some dubbing. We're gonna do sort of the same thing in a couple steps here. For this, I like the olive brown color. So we'll make a quick tight noodle of olive brown ice dub. And that's gonna be sort of a collar on the back side to position the wing against, or the wing buds, casing, whatever you might refer to this as. And then once we have a nice little ball right there, we can come in and start building some legs. And for the legs, we're going to do some hen, pretty classic leg material for stoneflies. We'll grab a couple of feathers out. We're going to need 2 of them. And what we're going to do is clip a little V in them. So that feather's too big. I'm going to save that for something else. Try that guy. So I'm going to come in and just clip a little V, so you kind of sneak your scissors from underneath, come in and clip out right in the center of that stem, and you get left with a nice little V there, which we can take and position on either side of the shank here. And then once you're happy with the length, just a little bit past that midway point, I'm going to pinch it to the side and lay down a few locking wraps on it. Gets it to flare out fairly nicely into leg form there. We can trim out the excess feather, like so. Get Get all of it. And lay down a little bit more dubbing. Just a small transitionary piece of dubbing here. Nothing else, just to even that out a little bit. And then I'm gonna add that piece of thin skin that we saved. And we're gonna take it and position it right on top here. So I'm gonna lay it facing rearward, out the back, just past those legs. We'll grab it and secure it down right there. And we want it to flare out just a little bit. Kind of hard to see there, but flares out towards the sky. And then what I like to do is I'll just sort of walk over the top of that material, leave it in place for now, because we're gonna do the same thing in a moment. But first, another transitionary dubbing noodle. Nice sparse one. Maybe a little more. There we go. Again, just to help this transition, I'm getting a little messy here today. And then another set of legs, which we had our other feather already selected. So we'll do that same thing. See if I can do it so where you can see it this time. So we'll just sneak right up through that feather and clip out the midsection. And then we'll take that, do the same thing, pair it on either side, pinch it down where you want it, some wraps on it. Might have to maneuver them a little bit. And then we can trim out that extra piece of feather. Small dubbing transition. This can also help control that feather a little bit. That last one was a little unwieldy. So I'm just gonna use some of this dubbing to lay it down a little more. It's a little better. But then we can take this last piece of thin skin right over the top, capture it down with a couple of not too snug wraps as of yet. We just want to make sure it's where we want it. And then I'm going to come through and clip it just shy of the one that's already hanging out there. And one more little piece, or pieces, whatever, of dubbing. One more dubbing noodle to finish the day. Right over top here. So yeah, cool little stonefly nymph. I really am a believer that if you were to just fill a box with John bar flies, you could fish a whole season and be very successful. He has a lot of amazing patterns that he's developed over the years that are just so functional, from the Copper John all the way through to this Tungstone. It's a great little fly, a nice heavy bug. You can weight it down too if you wanted. You can make it a little chunkier. But yeah, a nice little stonefly imitation. It's got some good flash to it, but it's also a darker fly, and one that can put a lot of fish on the net for you if fished in the right time. If fished at the right time and in the right location. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it helped you learn a little bit, and or at least inspired some creativity. But yeah, give this one a shot. It's a great little stonefly nymph, one that I definitely recommend having in the box. So check out the description below for the recipe. Go to avidmax.com for all your fly tying and fly fishing needs, and we will see you out there on the water. Thank you.